Welcome to another edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast. Professors Burgess and Bussey are here handing out degrees in common sense. Today, we focus on the ongoing conflict in Israel. Bubba, this is when you hear there's chaos, there's intensity, there's trouble in Israel and the surrounding areas. That is not usually that surprising. I remember when I had the honor to go to Israel, we were told if we were waiting on a green rating to travel, that you're never going to get it. You're not going to get it. But the good news is it is a very secure place. And we went, and my wife has even been back even last summer. But this, what happened on October the 7th, it's hard to believe, Bubba, that we're almost to a year. No. Is something that we haven't seen, fortunately, but now unfortunately we have seen it in a very long time. We have Captain Elkana Cohen. He's a reservist and the captain of an Israeli elite commando unit. And he has written a book, October 7th, The War Against Hamas, Through the Eyes of an Israeli Commando Officer. And he joins us now. Elkana, welcome to Rick and Bubba University, the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Let's get started with October 7th. I know it's probably hard to go back and have to remember this, but I think this is important. This is why your book's important. It's why this interview is important, because there's been so much conflict in Israel. I think sometimes we, your allies, say, well, this is just another conflict like we've seen many times before. But this particular attack, we've seen nothing like this since the Second World War. Tell us what was different and what you experienced.
So I'll start by saying that for me, everything started 1 hour before it actually happened. I slept in my in-laws in their house. They have a bomb shelter. I think it's important for people to realize in Israel, almost every house have a bomb shelter.
Yeah.
This was just their empty room. So we slept there. And on 5:30 in the morning, my wife woke me up and she was terrified. She told me, Elkana, I had a worst nightmare. Hundreds of terrorists were chasing us and you couldn't use your gun in order to defend us. I hugged her back and I told her, Shihan, don't worry, everything will be fine. It was just a nightmare. And then we went back to sleep. And 1 hour later, I was awakened by the Iron Dome system sirens that was activated by the missile attacks from Gaza. That point, I realized that something happened and I ran into my house. It is 15 minutes walk away. I ran into my house. I'm opening my phone, and as an observer too, I'm usually don't use my phone during holidays, but I opened my phone. I call my commander and I try to figure what's going on. And then he told me that something big happening in the south, and just tell me prepare your equipment and let's see how it's gonna go. I just hanging up the phone call and I get another phone call of my friends from my unit who tell me that my wife was called up as well into reserve duty. Me and my wife, we both served in Duvdavan. It's the Fauda series that on Netflix, for the one who saw that, based on my unit. We both met there. And this is the time when I realized there's something serious happening.
So tell us this. I know there's always some level of security you have to worry about in Israel. And there's always skirmishes going on with your enemies that surround you. Was there anything leading up to this that would have indicated something like this was coming, or did it just come out of the blue as much as what it appeared to us in the West?
It just came out of nowhere. To be honest, it was a holiday. I didn't expect anything. For me, I just wanted to celebrate with, the holiday with my family. This is all of us, this is what we were expecting for. And by the way, I want to also tell the viewers and the audience that I'm a personal trainer. I'm newlywed, an expecting father. I'm a student. The last thing that I want to do is to participate in war. That day, I was shocked. And when I got called up, No question, no hesitation. I went into my base and I did what I was needed to do. But before that, I didn't want to participate anything like that. And unfortunately, Hamas forced us to do as much as we can in order to defend our people and to make sure that they're not going to slaughter any other people. And this is what happened. But I was shocked that time.
Well, the level of the attack, as we said, nothing since the Second World War. I know that the book we're seeing it through your eyes, which sometimes can be quite difficult. When you arrived on the scene, how quick did you realize, okay, this is something beyond the skirmishes that you had seen?
So on October 7, after I got called up, I went into my base and then we moved to a different base in order to prepare ourselves. That time, the IDF was splitted. Some of us were trained in order to be ready for the grounded maneuver, and some of us went straight to the breach and fight the terrorists over there. Me and my team, as a commando, we were in one of the bases preparing ourselves in order to grounded maneuver at the Gaza Strip, as long with the Lebanon border, because we knew that Hezbollah is on the line. So for me, I wasn't there on October 7 at the morning. And basically, I started documenting everything once we went through the border after 3 weeks of preparation. And so I wasn't there. I wasn't next to the Gaza Strip when everything happened there. But unfortunately, I realized that a lot of my friends got murdered there, and some of them are being kidnapped and still being hostages, and Hamas holding their bodies till now.
So let me ask you this: being a military man, you're familiar with tactics and various things of war. I know you have to study up on some of that. What was the goal here by Hamas? Like you said, that there was no real indicator that anything was coming. It came a little bit out of the blue. It was a large-scale coordinated attack. What did they think was going to happen other than a response that has happened? I mean, what was the goal? What was the plan, and how has that gone wrong?
I think Hamas planned just to murder as many Jewish, by the way, also Muslim, Christians. They kidnapped also American civilians, but they planned to kill as many as they could. They just hate the state of Israel. And this is what they're doing. This is what they're fighting for. I think they didn't expect that this will be so successful from their side.
Yeah.
I think, but unfortunately, it was. Look, they murdered that day over 1,200 people, and they kidnapped 251 people. And in terms of the U.S., it will be 36,000 being murdered and 7,500 people will being kidnapped. It's number that we can't understand. It's something crazy, and they are pure evil. This is what they want to do. They slaughtered baby in front of their moms. They killed people who went to festival music. So basically, what they try to do is just to illuminate Israel and to kill as many Jewish as they can.
Is this the reason you started documenting? Because there's so much propaganda now in our world, and especially in our country, on how they cast the narrative of Israel versus your enemies. So, what did you feel it was important to document these things in such detail so that the story would be accurate from an Israeli point of view?
Yeah, I think this is one of the main reasons why I did that. It's all started by writing a letter to my wife. After a couple of days without being able to talk or communicate with my wife, one of my friends decided to write a letter. And I also decided to write a letter. And through that time, I realized that we are witnessing to something that the world should know. And I want to share a story. So let me share one story that maybe will demonstrate better than everything what we were up against. Because one of the time, we got an intelligence about school that was full with infrastructure used for terror. And we also knew that that school was full with civilians. So as we always do, We're calling them all out, but no one left the area. So we used a drone in order to scan the area from above, but no one left. And the reason it's because there was Hamas guard. They didn't let those civilians to get away because they knew that they can use them as a human shield. And one of the kids, the Palestinian kids, tried to run away, and the Hamas guard shot him in his head and killed him in front of his mom. And later on, we realized that we have to kill those guards in order to let those people leave the area. And that Hamas guard went on the rooftop, and he was holding a baby just in front of us because he knew that if we're going to take that shot, by the way, behind them was that guy that was holding a camera and who waited for us to take that shot. And the reason why we didn't take that shot is not because we were afraid from that camera guy, because we have different values and we don't kill innocent people, and we're doing as much as we can in order to avoid any casualties. So we didn't took that shot, even though they knew exactly where we were and we were exposed, but yet we didn't took that shot. Couple moments later, he went on the rooftop one time more. He was surrounded by a group of women. One of them banned a little bit, and it was enough for our snipers to take that shot. We took that shot, and we eliminate that threat. And after that, we allowed all the civilians there to get out from that school zone. And the reason why I'm telling that story, it is because I need people to understand that we have a great cause to fight, and we're doing that for our sake and for our brother's sake. But it is also for the Palestinian sake, because as I just told you, Hamas don't care about his own people. He's using them as a human shield, and this is what he do basically every time that I saw.
We'll come back. We'll continue our conversation when Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, continues right after this.
This is the Rick and Bubba Show. Watch more at blazetv.com/Rick and Bubba. Rick and Bubba, Rick and Bubba.
The book is October 7th, The War Against Hamas Through the Eyes of an Israeli Commando Officer. Elkana Cohen is the author, captain and a reservist of an elite commando unit. He is telling us some of the things that are documented. Obviously, the book, when it comes out on October 7th, will give you even more stories than we'll have time to cover today. So he is our guest as we continue our interview with him today. So one of the things you mentioned is that you guys are fighting to defend yourself. You're fighting to defend your neighbors, but you're also fighting to try to free the Palestinian people, even though there was one election. Once Hamas got into power, they have not relinquished, and now it's turned into a terrorist dictatorship. And some of the most susceptible victims are the Palestinian people themselves under this rule. And I had a friend of mine that has lived in Israel for 35, 36 years, and he asked me to notice that when it comes to the Israeli government, they have the Iron Dome. You said at the beginning of our conversation, your in-laws had a bomb shelter in their home. He said, notice where Hamas is in charge, that the civilians don't have anything to protect them from any attack from what they would deem to be an enemy. And he said, notice that, because that should tell you how little they value their own people.
I think it's much more than that, because it's not that they just don't have an Iron Dome system. They're taking every penny that they have and investing in infrastructure used for terror. You don't understand how many terror tunnels there is under Gaza. It's crazy. I've been to New York. It's much bigger than the subway, and it's crazy. They have tunnels that the trucks can drive inside that, and it's in every inch of the Gaza Strip under the ground. One of the time we were needed to bomb to explode one of the tunnel, and while we did that, the entire neighborhood collapsed. And the reason it's because they putting everything under neighborhoods and under hospitals. They're using mosques. They're hiding it behind, every normal institute that you would probably think that used for a good reason. So they're using it for terror infrastructure.
You mentioned earlier, and I think it's interesting because we always hear about this. But you said you met your wife. Now, tell us, as a growing up as a young person, every Israeli has to serve in the military for a certain amount of time, correct?
Yeah, it is right. I met my wife during my active service. She served in the same unit as I did, and almost every civilian, like every teenagers after he finished school, high school, he's drafting into the IDF.
And how long do you train before you get to go back to civilian life?
So our active service is almost 3 years. It's changing once in a while. It used to be 2 years and 8 months. Now, because of the situation, they brought it back to 3 years, and also they brought back the reserve duty to do. We're doing right now much more. Just that year I did over 220 days under reserve duty. The same for my wife, by the way. She also did over 230 days of reserve duty.
So even when you come out, you're still a reservist. You stay ready to serve militarily for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I think until the age of 45, but I can tell you that in my division, and we also had people at the age of 60. I know it sounds weird, but those people were amazing people that were able to do everything as much as we did. And the reason why we all participate in that war is because we don't have any other option. We have hostages at the Gaza Strip. We have people that try to eliminate us, and we need to make sure that Hamas being destroyed. So yeah, it's all of us, and even when you finish with your active service, you're still on reserve. But I'm proud to participate our reserve duty.
Well, and as you mentioned, it's not something you don't relish in these conflicts. Like you said, hey, I'm a personal trainer. I've got a baby on the way. I'm married. I didn't want to have to be involved in this, but you really didn't have a choice on this attack. Now, one thing that we always have great respect from the Israelis is your intel, and you guys are some of the best in the world when it comes to getting information and being prepared. Having people, that are, planted and spies where they are to be ready. But are you saying that on October the 7th, that the nation didn't have anything? Bubba asked this earlier, but I want to go deeper in that. So there was no intel that you were getting back that, hey, be careful, something big is coming?
I'm not a politician, and I don't know what the government intel was. But I can tell you that day we failed. We definitely failed.
Okay.
I don't know about any information that the big, the big people, the high commander knew. I do heard a lot of stories of the people that was on the border that were watching on the border. They tell everyone that they see something, but no one took it seriously, unfortunately. And I think we learned from that a lot, but it was too late.
Yeah, I don't want to go political here, and I don't want to drag you into that. But when you see, like, our country, this unvetted, open southern border, I can't imagine how someone like you looks at that and goes, so you just let people flow into the country unvetted? It doesn't make a lot of sense, does it?
Yeah, no, we have issues here, but I think one thing is very important. The Jewish people have been through a lot of bad time through history.
Sure.
We always were very hopeful, and I think this is what united us. And I think we will. I'm sure. I'm not. I know that we will be able to go over that time. And yeah, we have a tough time. We struggle with that, but at the end, I can assure you that there will be a greater time in the future.
So you mentioned something too, and I don't know if everybody caught it, or I want to be sure I got it right. You said your wife was called up too, and she is expecting, correct?
Yeah, she is.
That's something I think a lot of people in the U.S. it would just be so foreign to them, but it shows how desperate and how important the situation is in Israel.
Yes, it is important. And, I want my wife to rest, but she know that she have an important job and she have something that unfortunately I can't share with you what she's doing, but she's doing something very important.
Sure.
And we all know this is part of our mission. It is part of our mission to protect our nation. And this is what we're doing. And you just started to ask me before about what is going on and about all the people who, the protest. I think people should know that we don't want this war. We want this war to be end, but we need to make sure that Hamas being destroyed and our people, all of them, are back to their family.
Yeah, if you don't cut the head off the snake, if you don't deal with Hamas, these people there have no hope, and this is never going to end. And I think sometimes Americans, that's why it's important for you to be a guest and speak to an American audience, is I think we look and think, well, surely we can sit down at a table somewhere and everybody work this out. I don't think Americans really understand the conflict on why Hamas and the Houthis and Hezbollah, why do they hate Israel so much, and what do they want? And I don't think that Americans understand what they want is for Israel not to exist. Comment on that for a minute, because I think some people don't understand that.
I truly think that the people who protest against us, or they just hate us because otherwise they can explain, or they just don't know the facts. And the facts are that Hamas using their people as a human shield. The Hamas murdered that day thousands of people and kidnapped hundreds into the Gaza Strip. And the fact is that I think almost every house that I've been through at the Gaza Strip have multiple pictures in his house. They're hiding bombs, rifles, and grenade under baby kids. So I don't understand why people are criticizing us and go against us, because we are truly doing as much as we can in order to avoid casualties. As I just told you before, we put our life on the line in order to save those civilians. And by the way, I think some of them probably will support our deaths. And yet we didn't take that shot. So when people trying to go against us, or they just hate us, or they don't know the fact. And if they don't know the fact, I would love to come and speak with them, because for me, it's very important that people will realize what we're going through and what we are handling through that war.
We'll be back. We'll continue our conversation when Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, continues right after this. So Patriot Mobile has been teaming up with Rick and Bubba University for a while now. Americans, if you look, we're getting a little tired of the stalling economy, inflation bothering us, the relentless assault on the things that at one time we thought were American values. Thankfully, there are companies like Patriot Mobile that still believe in America and the Constitution, and we're proud to partner with Patriot Mobile because they're on the front lines fighting for the First and Second Amendments, sanctity of life, our military, our first responder heroes. So if you want to take a stand for conservative causes and put America first by switching to Patriot Mobile today, you get the same nationwide coverage as the big providers because Patriot Mobile operates across all three major networks. Plus, they back their service with a coverage guarantee. Now, this is what we find refreshing too. The customer service team, U.S. based. We can actually carry on the conversation. So, and you can they'll find the best plan for your needs. You can keep your number if you want to. You can keep the phone you have if you want. But if you want to upgrade, they'll help you with that too. Go to patriotmobile.com/RickBubba. Just put the names together. Or call 972-PATRIOT. That's right. Right now, get a free month when you use our offer code. That is RickBubba at patriotmobile.com, or when you call 972-PATRIOT. Our guest today is the author of the book October 7th, The War Against Hamas Through the Eyes of an Israeli Commando Officer. Captain Elkana Cohen is our guest. He's a reservist and part of this commando unit and is writing the book, and it's coming out on the anniversary of this attack on October the 7th.
You were mentioning people who didn't fully understand the conflict and the Israeli response to it. And I'm sure you've seen the video of the protest here in the United States against Israel, which historically we have been, I feel like, the biggest ally of Israel. Does it concern you when you see that? And of course, we know a lot of that is staged, a lot of it is paid for by the few, but being an open society, it is allowed here. Does it disappoint you when you see those kind of protests when they really don't understand the facts of what they're talking about?
Yeah, so it's very disappointing, but I think that also United States should be very aware to those people, because everything that happens in Israel will follow, I think, to the West, because when we saw that people were shouting death to Israel, they shout as well death to America. Hamas doesn't care, and all the terror organizations, not just Hamas. Hamas, it's a code name. It's the Hezbollah and Iran and the Houthis. They all want the West to be destroyed. And for me, yeah, when I saw those people supporting those terror organizations, it is very disappointing. But I also think that Hamas should be, the United States should be very careful with those people, because I assuming that sooner or later it will lead also to the U.S. So the people should be very care about what those people are saying and what they are supporting. I don't think they truly understand who they are supporting, because who they supporting is terror organization that would like to kill them as well. And once every one of them will be in Gaza, they're probably being slaughtered.
Yeah, we've made those same points. We just don't understand it. It just has to be that they're not really educated. And that goes to what you cover in the book. Hamas and the Houthis and Hezbollah, Iran, they understand that they can use propaganda to give people these confused points of view. And you were mentioning in the book about Hamas wearing GoPro cameras, and you mentioned the scene of the baby. So they're ready to try to document anything that might help them with this propaganda, right?
Yeah. First of all, on October 7th, Hamas documenting everything they've done, and they upload that into their website. They also live through Facebook. So when people try to say that nothing happened, this is just a lie. You can follow Hamas and you can see that. But let's put it aside. I think the people who supporting Hamas, they just don't realize what's going to happen while they're going to be next to a terrorist. He will slaughter them. He don't participate the same value that they holding. They just unfortunately they just ignores, and they don't know what they supporting. Just for being honest.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of groups here that have I'll put it this way, alternate lifestyles and various things supporting Hamas, and they have no idea that if they were there today, they would be killed by Hamas.
Yeah, there is. I saw people gaze for Gaza.
Yeah,
in Israel, you can be part of the Proud March in Tel Aviv, but in Gaza, if you are a guy, they probably will hang you off the rooftop. This is what they did. So I don't just realize why those people supporting. I don't know. I don't have any answer
yeah,
for that.
Well, we don't either. We're
No.
very confused too. We're scratching our heads. People go, who's going to tell them?
Well, and that's the thing. We know that they can't be educated on it. I don't guess. But then when you educate them on it, they still don't seem to respond. I don't. That's the part I don't get.
You know, our country is very divided right now along political lines, and I think that divide has got deeper over the past 10 to 20 years. And I think that one side is so against the other side, and they know that the conservatives historically support Israel. We vote to support Israel militarily and with weapons and all of that. And they figure if we're for it, they have to be against it. I really think some of it is that simplistic.
I think that makes as much sense as anything.
They're not looking at the facts of the situation. They just want to be total 180-degree opposite.
I think just some of the people are bored in their life. They don't have anything to look for.
Right.
So I'm telling you, this is the only story that I can tell to myself. Like the only thing that would
Right.
make sense to me.
Uh,
Those people don't have anything special in their life. They don't look for anything. Though they're trying to support terror groups.
yeah,
That's it.
I really think that Bubba's point here is the only one, and it doesn't make us feel any better.
It's the
'Cause
only one that really holds any
it's
water. in it, yeah.
frustrating is if people who support Israel are my political enemies, then I have to be for the enemies of Israel, which that doesn't make any sense. This is bipartisan how we should all feel about these evil terrorist groups and their end game, which would, as you pointed out, include not just Israel, it would include the West as well. In the book, there you talk about a prisoner that revealed to you guys that they had millions of shekels hidden in the house. Tell us that story.
And I think it's an amazing story that we can learn a lot from that story. One of the time we saw a bunch of people, some of them were terrorists, some of them aren't, but we knew that we need to interrogate all of them in Israel. And in order to interrogating them, we were needed to take them to the border. And 1 minute before we put them on our trucks in order to lead them to Israel, one of them stopped my friends and told them in Hebrew. He told them that he's hiding in his house millions in shekels, and not just that, also hundred thousands of dollars. And my friend asks him, "Why would you tell me that? Are you want to lead me into a booby trap? You want to kill me?" He says, "No." We couldn't believe him, so my friend asked him again, and he told him, "Can you tell me why are you sharing that information with me?" And he told us, "Look, when I'm gonna be out of here, every Palestinian that live at the Gaza Strip will go into my house and steal everything that they can. But I can trust you as an IDF soldiers." And 1 week later, he went on the Gaza Strip back again from the interrogation. And guess what? He was holding 2 bags that was holding his entire money. Nothing were taking off from his money. I think this is something that people should understand. We're doing as much as we can while the Palestinian and, of course, the Hamas, they don't have any code of moral, while we do have.
It almost sounds like the story of Rahab out of the Holy Scriptures when she came to her conclusion that God's people, the Hebrews, would treat her better than her own people. So she helped them. And they said, by helping us, we're going to be sure that you're protected. And she was protected. And this sounds very similar to that historic moment. Even people that were over on the side of your enemies, when it came to the character of the Israelis versus the character of their own people, they chose the Hebrews.
Yeah, I think this is what we are educating for, and this is our values. And sometimes it's hard. I think, we're doing as much as we can. I'm repeating that, but I know the fact that I'm repeating that it is just because this is who we are. And we do as much as we can in order to avoid any casualties. We're doing as much as we can in order to go back into our house normally with the knowing that we didn't did anything that we don't think it's the right thing to do. So yeah, we're taking care also the Palestinians during that war.
So how will this eventually end? How do you see this playing out? This particular engagement that's going on now?
As long as they holding our hostages, it can be end. I'm sorry, but for me, look, I'm not a politician. I don't know how the big people will decide at the end. But for me, as long as my brother and sister are still in captivity, we need to fight for them. And until the Hamas against Israel, we need to make sure that we are destroying Hamas. But let's say after we eliminate Hamas and we brought all our brothers and sisters back, we need to make sure that we are educating their entire population over there. Because when you're going through their school, you see that they educating their kids in order to hate Israel. And as long as they're educating their kids to hate Israel, the fight will be continued. But I also think that everyone talks about Israel's responsibility to end the war. But for being honest, there is 22 Arab countries. I want to see when those countries would come and said, you know what, all the Palestinians, you can come into our countries and we will host you here because we don't want to participate in this war. But they don't do that. And the reason, because they don't trust the Palestinians themselves. So I think we will do as much as we can, but I think all the 22 Arab countries should also participate and make sure how they're helping us to end that conflict.
Yeah, I've always thought it was interesting that the neighbors to Gaza there just as soon as there's any conflict, they close the borders because they don't want anybody coming into their country.
Yeah, one of the border of Gaza, it's with Egypt.
All right.
This border is more sealed than the Israeli border with the Gaza Strip.
It is. We'll come back. We'll finish our conversation when this edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast, continues right after this. Well, we're in our final segment. We're talking with Captain Elkana Cohen. He is a reservist and the captain of an Israeli elite commando unit. He's written the book October 7th, The War Against Hamas Through the Eyes of an Israeli Commando Officer. It comes out on the anniversary, October the 7th, and we have a few more minutes with him on this edition of the podcast.
So what, as us as Americans, what should we be doing to try to help and support your cause to clean that situation up and restore some form of security between you guys and the Gaza Strip?
I think the first thing that it's not just the US, the entire West need to do is to be aware of what's actually happened and to give us the support. I mean, I'm not talking just ammunition support. The fact that we're knowing that we have the US back, it's very important for us. And I also want to thank all the people that are supporting us because those people are amazing. And I also think if you're talking in regards to the government, again, I'm not a politician, but yeah, to bring as many ammunition and bombs in order to finish this war quicker as we can. We don't want this war, but we need to make sure that the Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, and Iran are being destroyed and not being able to fight against Israel, against the only democracy at the Middle East, and at the end also against US and all the West.
How much is Iran behind a lot of this?
I think everyone figured that Hamas funding all of that. But I can tell you, when I went to the Gaza Strip, we found lots of ammunition and rifles, snipers. There were I forgot how to say it in English, but they were creating at Iran. We saw their grenade with the Iran sign on that. We saw bombs. And also night visions equipment that were used and brought from Iran. So yeah, they definitely behind that.
Yeah, you could see what you were saying is when we got there, we saw they had equipment that came from Iran, and it was obvious that Iran was not only funding them but also sending the weapons they needed to have their best shot at standing their ground.
Yeah, this is what we saw.
So when we had the latest, the Israelis went in and took out all these key leaders, and then Iran said there'll be a huge response to that. They're not going to let that go. It'll be something unprecedented, and that event has not taken place. Do you think it hasn't taken place because you guys are doing a good job and they're not able to do it? Or are they just waiting for whatever this is they say they're going to retaliate with?
I think they're hating us. They hate us, so they will try to do something. But the reason why they don't do it yet, I think it's because the strong bond between the US and Israel.
Yeah.
And also because the fact that they already have experience with us. They once tried to do a massive attack on Israel, and they couldn't succeed with anything. So I think they just realized that we are also a strong country, but we saw that the strong connection between the U.S. and Israel and all the other countries that supporting us, they don't want to start a new World War III.
Yeah.
And this is what if they do something like that, something big, I think this is might gonna lead to a serious war at the entire Middle East.
Yeah, and that's what everybody keeps thinking with our important election coming up. We're thinking, we feel like we're on the brink of World War III, and as you said, if Iran does something that would warrant then another response, not just from Israel, but from the United States and Israel together, then we're kind of off and running, as we would say, into World War III. And hopefully they don't want that. I don't. That's not going to fare well for them.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna end well for them, because I can tell you that in Israel, every soldier, and we full with a feeling mission, with a mission feeling. We know what we're doing,
right,
and we're fighting for our cause, and it's a great cause for us to fight. We know that we have to fight in order to defend our country, and I think if you ask any also U.S. soldiers, he will tell you that he will defend his country, and he'll do as much as we can. And as I saw, I had a training with the Marines once during my active service. You don't want to get with a fight with the Marines, and you definitely don't want to get with a fight with the Devant unit in all our special units. I know it's probably will be a hard fight, hard war, but definitely we're going to win it, and Iran will be devastated.
So you said that one of the ways that Iran, we'll say that since they're backing all these three organizations, could find a more peaceful solution, step one would be give the hostages back.
Definitely.
Yeah, and because as long as that is unresolved, then you guys are not in a position to say, all right, we're done. We'll all go back to our positions.
So everybody that's on TV screaming ceasefire, they could get real close to that by getting the hostages back. But they are the ones who keep them and keep this going.
Yeah, definitely. And I think everyone forgetting who they were kidnapped. It's not just soldiers. They were kidnapped babies. 9 months baby were kidnapped. I think everybody know, because he became everybody knows him, the Bubba's baby, the redhead baby.
Sure.
They were kidnapped. They don't care. And if they want any ceasefire, they just need to bring our brother and sisters back, and they need to make sure that they're not supporting Hamas or any terror organization that wants to kill us. Because we can just say, all right, you know what? Let's do peace. You can have our hostages. You can still shooting at us. No other country will allow that. So we not allow that as well. And they should know that. I think it's simply as that. If they will stop attacking us and they bring our brother and sister, everything will be finished by days, even less hours. I don't know.
So if you want to find out more, you can actually go to the website, Elkana, then dash Cohen, COHEN.com. The book is coming out on October the 7th. And if you want to follow Elkana on his Instagram, it's Elkana, Elkana, and then under the underscore, and then Kuno, Kuno, which is what his friends call him. So you can continue to follow as he tries to make sure. And if you want to go out and have an opinion about what's going on, we keep saying this all the time, it should be an informed opinion. And that's all that our brother is asking, is that if you're trying to figure out where you stand on what's going on, at least have all the information and be informed. And in this case, you can be informed through the eyes of an Israeli commando officer, because it's not like he knows about this secondhand.
Yeah, he's been there.
He has been there. Thank you for taking time to be with us today, and
God bless you.
And know that we stand with Israel. We stand with you, and we will demand that our country continue to stand with Israel. To me, it's an easy decision. And as you said, one of the ways that you get to the end of a conflict and have peace, many times, unfortunately, it only follows all-out victory. And I know that you are more than resolved to do that if necessary. Hopefully, the enemies of Israel will not make it necessary. So our thanks to Elkana Cohen for joining us on this edition, and thanks to each and every one of you for being with us on this edition of Rick and Bubba University, the podcast.